What is going on, you guys? It is Livid. Hope you're all doing very well today. I have had so many requests from players asking me to do a build video for the tank build that I used in the new Broken Rain Incursion in the Division 2 in the collaboration stream with Rogue Gold and Asdacross. I'm happy to be bringing that video for you guys today. I have two builds that I've been using extensively since launch, and not only did they help me carry Asdacross and his partner Luke through the Incursion, I've also been using them with my regular friend group to complete the flawless achievements. We did obtain the backpack trophy for the final boss, as well as the new face mask beats per minute. It is very important to make it known that these builds will definitely change next season. A lot of brands are getting reworks, and tanks will probably be stronger than they ever were. Sets like 511 and Golan will potentially become best in slot choices, so just consider these my recommendations for now. With all of that chatter out of the way, let's get into the very first build. First, we're going over Foundry Bulwark. I actually use this for the majority of the Incursion. I only swap builds at the very final boss. So looking at each of the pieces, I've decided to use the tardigrade armor system as my choice for the chest piece, and I will explain why in just a moment. We're running 4 pieces of Bulwark, and I'm running a Bellstone backpack with Protector. All of my mods are protection from elites in the slots, and then for the guns, I'm really not using my primary guns all that much. However, I do use the lefty whenever I possibly can. If you guys aren't sure what the lefty is, it is actually a named shotgun, and it has a perfect sledgehammer. So the sledgehammer talent is going to allow targets to take 20% more damage, and it gives them a movement speed penalty whenever I damage them with a grenade. It can be any grenade type to my knowledge. I am not 100% sure about the riot foam grenade with gunner. However, it could definitely be tested. If anybody knows for sure, make sure to leave a comment for that down below. I would say another very important piece to this build is going to be the Mosquito exotic pistol. Now, a lot of people have had some mixed reviews about this. I personally have nothing but good things to say about it. I can agree that the aggro system doesn't always work properly, but for me it worked out fine. It does forcefully target whatever enemy I do land stacks on 5 times, as long as they're up close. Obviously, snipers aren't going to take priority of me if I'm far away. But honestly, even if the aggro system didn't work properly, I think that 25% more armor damage when they hit 5 stacks is just extremely important. Some of the earlier bosses, such as Lester and Dwayne, have so much armor, so having the Mosquito definitely does make a difference on that front. Looking at the Foundry pieces, all of my pieces have an armor roll and hazard protection rolled, except for the knee pads where I do have a skill tier rolled instead of armor. If you guys set your targeted loot to Foundry, by the way, you will find these pieces, and they always drop with a blue core, so it's really not hard to find slots with max armor rolls. A lot of these just dropped with max armor, and I didn't even have to optimize them. And the reason why I've chose a skill tier for this is because I am going with the Technician specialization, and Technician does come with a free skill tier. And just in case you weren't aware, which I'm sure many of you guys might know by now, but the shield actually takes into account both your blue cores and yellow cores, meaning that if I were to have had an extra blue core, it's basically wasting a skill tier slot. So by rolling 1 skill tier slot to my gear, I'm actually giving my shield this extra slot, as well as my Artificer Hive 1 slot as well. The Artificer or Artificer, however the correct way to pronunciate it is, make sure to let me know that in the comments as well so I can actually not look stupid whenever I say Artificer. This one sends out micro electro drones that essentially heal the shield for you automatically. So whenever I take larger amounts of damage, the Hive will just automatically send out those micro drones to heal it, so I don't have to worry so much about my shield taking massive amounts of damage. You could definitely rework this. You probably don't have to use Technician, so you don't have to use the Artificer, but you could definitely change it over to Survivalist for added protection from elites if you would like to. If you were to change over to Survivalist, you could either change this to a Revive Hive, a Booster Hive for added Hasbro, or you could change it to the Decoy. And whenever we were going for Flawless, the Defender drone is also not a terrible idea. And the reason why I like to make sure to have Tardigrade is because it basically allows all of the armor giving to be on autopilot. I don't have to worry about unlocking certain bonuses. I don't have to make sure that I activate my shield or anything in order for this to work. It just automatically gives armor to whoever needs it at the right time. And the cooldown is pretty forgiving for what the bonus actually does. If you get really unlucky with getting a tardigrade drop, like let's say you're a bit newer and you don't have this and you haven't seen it before, some other good options to consider are the Point Man. This is a named Gilligard chest piece, or just find a chest piece with total armor or armor regen, and you can find the Vanguard talent. Vanguard basically makes your shield invulnerable for 5 seconds once it's used, and then it's going to grant your armor as bonus armor to your team for 20 seconds. This does have a cooldown, and I personally just don't like to pay attention to this. I don't like having to remember to activate things. I would rather it just be on autopilot, which the tardigrade does for me. Another good option would be something with Unbreakable. So you could run 2 pieces of Badger for 5% total armor if you would like to. I don't think that's necessarily worth it. You could just find a Gila chest piece with Unbreakable or something like that. But Unbreakable is a good option. It's just that it's only going to apply to you and not your teammates, but it could help you in a pinch if you need it. So those are just a couple options. I have been messing as well with Protected Reload. I just don't think it's as beneficial for the team, and it only works while they're reloading, and there's no lingering effects to my knowledge. So this is just something that I'm kind of messing with my team. It's not really something that I would really recommend, but if it's the only talent that you can get, it's not a terrible option. For the backpack, like I said, I am using Protector. This is just going to grant constant bonus armor to my team with very minimal downtime and minimal cooldown. And like I said, I am only using this set for the first few bosses. I like to use this in Turbine as well, although you could run something with a bit more Hasbro for Turbine if you'd like to. But since I have all of these pieces rolled over to Hazard, and then the watch will give me 10, sometimes people on our team will run Nurse's knee pads that'll give me an additional 40 if I'm nearby. It's the actual final section where you'll really want to worry more about Hasbro, so let's go ahead and get into the next build that I have for you, which is basically just an all brand set tank. The first item that I have on this build is the named Gilligard mask called Chill Out. This is going to give us 5% armor from the set, as well as 2 additional mod slots, so this allows me to add more protection from elites here. And as you guys know, I am really enjoying the tardigrade system, so I do have that one equipped. For the holster, I have my only prototype Bellstone holster. I wanted to try and maneuver this gear around so I could specifically have this prototype piece, and then I wouldn't have to worry about using my expertise stuff. So I did get one here. Obviously not the greatest for prototype, but it's still better than the base amount. And then I do have a Uzina backpack now. I was using a Uzina holster before and a Bellstone backpack, but now I have these swapped around, so I'm able to run my prototype piece. For the backpack, I do need to do some optimization here. I just did the swap, but pretty much everything is the same. I just now have a prototype piece here, and then I just have to optimize this, but all of the rolls are exactly what you would want. You will want Hasbro here and armor regen. For the talent, I'm running Adrenaline Rush. This does help out a lot when things start to get hairy, like when NPCs first start spawning in. If you're running buttons, this does help out a lot, and it helps your armor catch up to where it needs to be. I mean, as you can see, I have 2.1 million armor, and this is mostly because I did swap to this one prototype piece. And just in case you guys weren't already aware, of course, prototype is normalized inside the incursions, meaning that augments and anything else do not work, but the expertise actually does work. So if you do have prototype pieces, it's not the worst idea to throw them on, but you absolutely do not need them to run the incursion. I did the first runs with absolutely no prototype gear whatsoever. For the gloves, I did craft some improvised gloves, and I'm just realizing that these have explosive. I would much rather have armor regen on them rather than explosive. You're really only dealing with the mortars for the first part, and for the most part, they are avoidable. It's really the disorient that you get after the mortars that is really frustrating to deal with. So having a decent amount of Hasbro can help you out here. So just make sure that all of your gear is rolled to Hasbro wherever possible. To help you out with this, instead of maybe the Emperor's Guard, you could consider swapping this out for one piece of Y'all, or even the Nurse knee pads could help out with a lot of the Hasbro, and then you could just hot swap them later. But just for the sake of this video, I would say this is exactly what I ran and it worked for me, so it should work for you. Again, all of my mods are PFE, and I have a few more of those slots available because of Chill Out and the improvised gloves. The knee pads that I'm using are the Emperor's Guard named Murakami knee pads. These are going to give me 1% armor regen as the bonus. And then I have armor regen here on the knees, which again, preferably I would have wanted Hazard here. But that's okay, we have these for now. Now, I did quickly want to come over to my specialist menu because I did realize that I was still running Technician for this, and you probably don't need this because it's just giving you the extra skill tier. The only time where this can really help you with this that I've noticed where I've gotten value is having an extra charge for your hive, so you would be able to revive your DPS players if needed. Instead, I would probably recommend either Demo or Survivalist. Survivalist is going to give you 10% additional protection from elites, which is very valuable, and the Demolitionist will actually allow you to ignore explosion once every 60 seconds, which again can be valuable, but for the most part, the mortars are just avoidable. It's mostly the Hasbro that you're going to want to go for. So for the sake of this, I am going to go ahead and activate these Survivalists, and I'm going to make sure that I save this to this build, because yeah, you definitely don't need Technician for this part. As far as the skills go, I would say Reviver Hive and the Decoy. However, if you are not going, or rather if you are going for Flawless, you can change the Reviver Hive to a Booster Hive for added Hasbro. You can also use the defender drone as well. For the guns, I would say these ones are actually very important. I've found that the Sweet Dreams is extremely useful. It does allow you to just slap down the purples that are like hiding in the back away from your teammates. The purples are actually going to be some of the scariest enemies within that last section, especially if you're trying to get flawless, because of course they don't count for your protection from elites, and you don't have any other mods to kind of help you mitigate that damage or do more damage to them. So having one person dedicated to both running buttons, you're already running in and out of the enemy line of fire anyway. You might as well just have something that can one tap them down. And that does help out your DPS players quite a bit. And then of course I do have the lefty. I have the lefty on the majority of my builds at this point. But for this build specifically, it does help out quite a bit. You'll notice that I am not using the mosquito here. You could use the mosquito, but I do think that the quick step is far more valuable for this part. You're just running to and from buttons so much that the quick step is just too valuable to pass up. Do you need quick step? No. Does it make your life extremely easy? Yes, it does. Yeah, everybody, there you have it. Those are the 2 tank builds that I've personally been using to clear Broken Rain fairly consistently as well, including flawless runs for the Backpack Trophy and Face Mask. They've been the setups that I've relied the most on while running with groups that aren't necessarily composed for 4-man optimized player groups. And that's mainly the biggest thing that I'd like to emphasize, is that a tank isn't just there to stand in front of the boss and absorb all of the bullets. Your job is also just to ensure that your team can sustain all of the incoming damage that they're taking. You're doing a lot, you're juggling a lot, you're controlling enemy aggro, you're providing bonus armor, you're also helping out your DPS players with more damage depending on the guns that you're using. Overall, you are an absolute unit of a support player. You are not just there to tank the bullets. Just remember that these are going to be changing next season, and I'll make sure to come out with build videos as soon as we get our hands on that. I only have a small amount of footage from the PTS and not enough to really provide you guys with a full video. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any further comments, be sure to leave them down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.